Hi everyone, Jared here with Day Traders FX. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. We've got some good setups to start this week off. A few entries that have not yet filled, and then we've got some that we're kind of just waiting and watching on. We're going to get to those quickly. We've seen quite a rally today, the kind that we haven't seen in a while. Oil has been sitting around $84 and $85, and we see it. We got up over 89 today, but it's back down just below 89 at 88.90. The Dow rallied 200 points. We haven't seen a good Dow day, and it seems like quite a while. And the S&P rallied quite a bit as well, just about shy of 30 points. So pretty big day there. We've seen a couple of announcements as well. Existing home sales came out quite a bit better than expected, or excuse me, not a bit better than last month's number. Not a ton better than expected, but still better than expected. So that's looking good. And then we've got some Japanese interest rates and so on coming up today, and that's definitely going to be a bit of a shocker. So we've got to keep our eyes out for that. The rates never change, but the statements, the rate statements can oftentimes push the the yen pairs to new lows, and we can see some movements there. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Coming in tomorrow, we have Bernanke speaking tomorrow. Plus, we have building permits. So that's a little bit of a mover. But Bernanke, of course, will be the event of the morning. And we have some Euro group meetings, so that'll be all eyes on the euro. So speaking of the euro, here's euro dollar. This is a level that we've talked about quite a bit. This is 127.77, and you can see that this level has turned out to be quite the little tough one. The market's had a hard time getting above that. We finally did make a break, and we ran right up to weekly resistance 1, and then right back to that 127.77. So the euro dollar is struggling a little bit. It looks like we have a little bit of a short-term bottom in place here, and this thing's ready to start heading back up, but it is coming into contact with that 4-hour 200-day moving average. It's bouncing on the 1-hour 100 or 200-day moving average, and it's still, a little bit on the retracement side, short-term bearish on the daily chart, and it's still on the retracement side of this recent movement, and we still do have some bearish signals as long as it stays down here below some of these areas, the 129, 130, and so on. So anyways, what are we going to do in the short term on the euro dollar? And that's the big question. One thing that I'm looking at is definitely if we get an open below this 200-day moving average, I'm going to look for just a short-term run down into about this 127, 30, 40 area. I think this is going to be an interesting little potential move into that weekly pivot. And so again, that'll be an open below the 200-day moving average on the 1-hour chart here, and that should get this pair running back down for a quick 20 to 30 potential pips. Otherwise, if this bounce kind of continues, I'm going to I will post more details as we get into the UK session tonight, but there may be some activity to buy this euro dollar back up above the daily pivot, which is around 127.90. So we're going to be looking at that. But it's definitely a little bit choppy right now, so there's nothing too much I'm going to get into just yet, apart from this nice little run and an open potentially below that 200-day moving average on the 1-hour chart. Otherwise, everything else is kind of just hopping around and not giving us a lot of really great signals on this pair in particular. Pound dollar has also been very choppy. Now, the pound dollar, one thing that it's doing nicely is bouncing off of the 200-day moving average on the 1-hour chart. It did miss the weekly pivot so far, and it's missed the daily pivot, so we may have a little short-term run, 20, 30 pips down into some of these lows. Very, very choppy. This pound dollar has been pretty ugly, and so we just want to kind of keep our eyes on that. You can see that we're just consolidating around this 200-day moving average, and it's just having trouble really picking up much momentum either way. So again, I'm not super excited for anything on this pair just yet, apart from potentially, running down to this missed pivot here around 158.70, 70-ish area, and we'll just kind of watch that. Euro yen, on the other hand, is getting a little more interesting. The euro yen has we have a nice little 1-hour trend line here that it's been bumping up very nicely. We had a big scare in Japan last week, and that caused all the yen pairs to rally, of course, towards yen weakness, but big runs up into some of these upper resistance levels here. We've seen that the euro yen has bumped just above 10400, and it's kind of hanging around in this general area. We're looking for this break, looking for this move here. One level that I was liking earlier today was the 103.45-ish area below here. I think we've got a good chance to run into the weekly pivot. So I'm still looking for that. So getting below 103.45, again, a run into the weekly pivot around 102.90, 95. And keep in mind, we do have a missed pivot down here from a couple of days ago. It looks like Thursday of last week at 101.80, a big clear miss of that, and there's a lot of open space there. So I think we've got a nice opportunity to trade this euro yen back down into that missed pivot. So we're going to be looking for that. For a run down in there and some nice moves into that direction. So keep an eye on that. Otherwise, as far as the buy side of things go, the euro yen again is coming up into some pretty major resistance. You can see that this is my trend line from the weekly chart, and this has been tested. This channel has been tested very well. It's coming right back up to that upper resistance, so it's going to be a tough level up above, 104. 20, 30, 40 area. It's definitely going to struggle up there, but I'm looking for, some of that retracement and some of that move towards 101.80, but at least towards a weekly pivot here, which again is around 102.95. So that's what I'm looking for there. Aussie dollar. Now, I like this Aussie dollar to some degree here. We have on the Aussie dollar a nice 1 hour pin bar, nice little reversal candle. Everything was looking great. We just pushed above that reversal candle by about 7 or 8 pips. There's no clear break, no open above or above that area, but it did try to test and try to kind of violate those highs. So we're going to see if we can hang down here in the lows. We do want to get this Aussie dollar back below about the 103, I'm going to say 103.90-ish area, which is where our daily pivot is, and start to get this thing running back towards this weekly pivot and ultimately back towards this missed pivot here at 103.25. So remember, we have a missed pivot from Friday, 103.25. The Aussie dollar definitely has made a nice run and a big move, and if we can get a big negative push on this 4-hour candle, that'll be nice, and that'll get us back down into hopefully the good graces of this missed pivot. But otherwise, keep in mind the Aussie dollar does have a nice reversal candle on that daily chart, especially as it's bouncing off this ascending trend line. So there's some definite support there, but I think on the short term we have a nice chance at getting back towards that weekly pivot and even potentially that missed pivot. So that, in my book, can be confirmed after we get a nice little open below this daily pivot, which is around 103.90, 92-ish area. So keep an eye on that. And then just quickly, gold has rallied nicely. We don't have anything super specific on gold. It's quite choppy, quite a bit of rough movement in the last little bit. So we're going to keep our eye on it. But of course, you can see a lot of resistance up here around 1737, just shy of 1740. We've got some pretty strong levels to keep an eye on. So let's do that. Again, just some more missed pivots. Missed weekly pivot on the pound or on the Aussie yen, 83.70. Missed daily pivot around 83.90. And again, getting below this daily pivot that it's currently sitting at about at 84.57, 58, right in that area, could motivate some of that movement towards that missed daily pivot, which is around 83.90, be a nice little 60+ pip run. So we're going to keep an eye on that. So the yen pairs have a couple of little missed pivots, a couple of things going on there, but we've overall got some really nice setups. I'll keep some more details coming on Twitter, so make sure to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/daytradersfx, and let's keep an eye on some of these levels. But we've got some missed pivots and some nice opportunities for some retracement before possibly this big continuation happens. So we'll see how it goes. Best of luck, guys, and I will see you in the chat.